Robert Pattinson has always loved messing with the press, and he's never been shy about making up stories in interviews. But recently, he got a big surprise when he watched a 2011 interview and couldn't believe what he'd said. That year, the Twilight saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 was out, and Robert was in the middle of a crazy global press tour. But during one interview, he dropped a wild story that left everyone completely confused. He was promoting Water for Elephants, a circus-themed romantic drama starring Reese Witherspoon and Christoph Waltz, when he casually dropped a bombshell. He told the interviewer, Matt Lauer, that the first time he went to the circus, a clown died. Yep, you read that right. A clown died.
How did the clown die?
His little car exploded. The joke car exploded on him.
You're being serious about this,
seriously.
yeah? So did that kind of ruin the circus for you?
It was. Like, my parents had to, everybody ran out. It was terrifying.
It's bizarre. What a bizarre way to start the interview.
But here's the kicker. Pattinson later admitted that the whole thing was made up. So, why did he lie? Well, according to Pattinson, he was just trying to entertain himself. There was absolutely no hesitation at all in my voice, he told the New York Times-style magazine when recalling that interview. I'm like, what on earth? Are you possessed?
I have trouble distinguishing fact from fiction.
Okay, so Rob is a liar.
He's lying.
Turns out Pattinson was groggy from a late night after the Water for Elephants premiere and came up with the circus story on the spot. He said he ad-libbed what he thought would be a cool story to tell, just something to keep the interview interesting. And when Lauer kept pressing him about it, Pattinson was a little shocked that the story even became a thing.
You don't have to tell me a really bad one.
Yes.
But let's be honest, this isn't the first time Robert Pattinson has made up a ridiculous story. During that time in his career, he said a lot of wild things to keep himself entertained during press interviews.
Everybody knows you for that long hair.
Yeah,
It's not that long, was it?
I got a terrible infestation of nits and had to shave it all off.
No, you did not. Don't start that rumor.
In his recent interview, Pattinson spoke about how early in his career, he got bored of the constant questions about fame. He said, "You go into like a fugue state during these interviews, and that's when the lies would come out. The only thing people would ever ask me about was being famous," he explained. So, to spice things up, he'd throw in a little fiction here and there.
Did your Twilight experience turn out to be what you expected?
Now, fast forward to today, and Robert Pattinson is far more focused on choosing projects that truly excite him. He's set to star in Mickey 17, directed by Oscar winner Bong Joon-ho, and is gearing up for the Batman sequel. Yet even with all his success, his mischievous side is still very much intact. In fact, when an airport employee recently recognized him and asked, "Why'd you stop acting?" Pattinson couldn't resist responding with a grin, "I'm Batman," leaving the employee in stitches.
I like extremes. I like things going crazy. I like hanging around with crazy people.
So Pattinson's come a long way from chaotic days of auditioning and wild interviews. One memorable audition for Aragon in 2006. There's this scene where his character finds a dragon egg, and it's supposed to be a triumphant, heroic moment. But instead of playing it that way, Pattinson turned it into a tragedy. "I remember my manager saying they thought I was on drugs," he explained. Classic Robert, always keeping things interesting. But that's not all. Pattinson has plenty of other quirky moments up his sleeve. Let's dive into more of his mischievous behavior that keeps everyone on their toes. Pattinson nearly burned down his kitchen in London. Perhaps being bored on lockdown, he came up with a stunning idea to cook his own pasta dish. Having wrapped the tray in foil, he put that, no, not in an oven, in his microwave. That is not really safe. After nearly starting a fire, Robert said, "I mean, there's absolutely no chance this is gonna work. Absolutely none." You would be surprised, but the strange recipe went viral. As a result, a lot of memes. Well, for Rob, it's a usual thing. He often breaks the internet, not only with his great acting, but also with some deeply odd things. Perhaps it all started when he was a kid. Rob had two sisters who used to dress him up as a girl and introduce him as Claudia. That was until he turned 12. Pretty eccentric for a shy kid like Rob. Well, that shyness didn't go away, even after he skyrocketed to fame. Yes, despite being adored by millions of girls, He is, quote, quite shy. He gets really nervous before interviews and likes to have a little time to think before answering questions. I've always had a problem actually thinking before I open my mouth. Isn't that too self-critical? We guess so. But sometimes his mouth really gets him in trouble. Well, we mean people can't get if he's joking or not.
And I was sleeping with the dog and basically giving the dog a... and we and we were asking we
That was what you the actor Robert Pattinson were doing, or that's what the character was doing?
It was a character thing.
Yes, he said that he had to perform a sex act on a dog for his movie Good Time. And what's even more shocking, he was allegedly asked to do it for real. Of course, the story spiraled out of control. The next day, Rob clarified his remarks. He said he was not being serious, just another bawdy joke. As Trump would say, fake news. But why on earth would he make up this story? I was trying to make Jimmy laugh, only to create confusion and a false impression. Believe it or not, but many of these stories are not even Rob himself. That's, quote, a gremlin in his mind. Perhaps it is him, not Pattinson, who acts out all the time. The actor jokes that during interviews the gremlin inside of him thinks, just say something shocking. You're only here for a few minutes, say something terrible.
This was just pretty aggressively strange.
Well, that's weird, but not boring. We all remember your disdain for boredom. Yes, Rob has a very little patience when it comes to non-creative types. He, quote, would send them behind bars so that they learn to be creative. Well, if that's the case, at one point Pattinson himself would also end up in prison, once he bored to death his own stalker, who wouldn't let up for 3 weeks. While Rob was filming a movie in Spain, she stood outside of his apartment, all day, every day. Eventually, Pattinson took her out to dinner, out of boredom, of course. He kind of complained about his life for 2 hours, and guess what? Rob never saw her again afterwards. She never returned to the doors of his apartment. Oh dear. Hardly can we imagine Rob being boring. Yet, that's not the only shocking thing. Believe it or not, he used to steal things as a kid. Not a candy bar or gummies. The Twilight star would steal porn magazines and sell them at his elite school in London. I would sell it for like 20 pounds. Like 30 bucks. So, morals aside, it seems that his adult mag hustle was a well-established business. Kind of. As it often happens, in the end, it failed. Pattinson was caught and expelled from his school.
They think I'm too greedy.
Not greedy, but frugal. Despite earning millions for the Twilight saga, Robert Pattinson says he doesn't like to splash out on lavish purchases. The only thing I've really bought in my life is my car, which costs $1,500 and keeps exploding. Though his father was a vintage car dealer, Robert Pattinson himself is not that used to driving. And who cares? Rob doesn't drive because he gets driven.
Actually, a much better driver now.
Well, practice makes perfect, they say. That's probably what Rob thought when he made up his mind to become a ballet dancer.
I think there's just a ballerina. There's a ballerina inside me.
Yes, you heard him right. He wants to transform himself into a ballerina, but only on screen. He never took ballet classes, and he has not the slightest clue about the techniques. Despite all this, Pattinson says he's been trying to find a ballet movie for years. That comes as a real surprise. Why does he find it fascinating? The answer is simple. Rob likes tackling those roles no one would expect from him. He loves to take up things that are completely new to him. If I was going after parts which seem somehow relatable to my real self, I would be consistently playing chronically insecure losers. Or perhaps some odd guys, just like Batman, right? Don't get us wrong, but he isolates himself from others, dresses up like a bat, and spends his nights beating up criminals. That's unusual, right? And Rob, as we know, has a penchant for playing unusual roles and sometimes not telling the truth. While he was filming Tenet with Christopher Nolan, Pattinson tried to hide his screen test for the Batman. Yes, he kept the fact a secret. He told Nolan that he had a family emergency. As soon as he said that, Nolan replied, "You're doing the Batman edition, aren't you?" Yes, that's what we are saying. Not just about Batman. Rob is also like that. Why? Well, he spins in circles, eats mud, forces himself to gag. Sometimes he beats himself on set and sticks his fingers down his throat. Can you imagine his co-stars watching Pattinson doing these things before his scenes? Obviously, this surprised and shocked them. His fellow actor Willem Dafoe says he finds it wacky, though he adds he's not trying to judge. Well, and neither do we. We are just wondering why. And here's the possible answer. It's just a method he invented to keep his performances fresh. Though Robert Pattinson says he, quote, doesn't really know how to act. And what are your thoughts? Share your opinion in the comment section below.